Hi everybody, I am going to talk about understanding disability. The term disability is considered to be a part of human condition. Every individual at some point experiences some form of either temporary or permanent impairment in life situation. Those who experience permanent impairment and surviving till old age tend to experience increasing difficulties in day-to-day functioning and in the process of socialization. The nuclear family system in the present era is becoming a great challenge to individuals living with disabilities. However, the disabling condition challenges the physical and social conditions and hampers the full participation of individuals in society and in enjoyment of equal rights and opportunities. The United Nations organization estimated that 600 million people live with some form of physical, sensory, or mental disabilities in the world today, and that these numbers are expanding rapidly. The contemporary disability prevalence estimates acknowledge that the social context that influences people with atypical characteristics being considered disabled. Individuals living with disabilities are denied the access to human rights, inclusion, communication, basic facilities such as healthcare, education and employment in general scenario, despite the pronouncement of the international and national rights of the persons with disabilities. Given the magnitude of the problem, it is important that disability in person must receive greater socio-economic and political attention. Social workers engaged in creating change among the individuals are expected to ensure knowledge about adequate services available to those individuals living with disabilities for their inclusion. As a result, social work in the field of disability became a prominent place in the social work education in India. At the end of this talk, you will develop adequate knowledge about the meaning, definition, and types of disability, understand the causes of disability, and learn the degree and magnitude of disability. Let me briefly explain the definition of disability. Disability is difficult to define since it varies in type, form, and intensity. Therefore, understanding disability will require sound understanding about these variances in each type of disabilities. The International Classification of Functioning, Disability and Health define disability and functioning as outcomes of interactions between health conditions and contextual factors. Among contextual factors are external environmental factors and internal personal factors, which include gender, age, coping styles, social background, education, profession, past and current experience, overall behavior pattern, character, and other factors that influence how disability is experienced by the individual. Disability, therefore, involves dysfunctioning at one or more of these same levels, such as impairments, activity limitations, and participation restrictions. The formal definitions of these components of International Classification of Functioning, Disability and Health are: 1. Body functions or physiological functions of body systems. Body structures are anatomical parts of the body such as organs, limbs and their components. Impairments are problems in body function or structure such as a significant deviation or loss. Activity is the execution of a task or action by an individual. Participation is involvement in a life situation. Activity limitations or difficulties an individual may have in executing activities. Participation restrictions are problems an individual may experience in involvement in life situations, and environmental factors make up the physical, social, and attitudinal environment in which people live and conduct their lives. Person with Disability Act 1995 defines as a person suffering from not less than 40% of any disability as certified by a medical authority is considered as a person with a disability. Let me now mention the types of disabilities. The types of disabilities specified in the Rights of Persons with Disabilities Bill are autism spectrum disorders, blindness, cerebral palsy, chronic neurological conditions, deaf blindness, hemophilia, hearing impairment, intellectual disability, leprosy cured, locomotor disability, low vision, mental illness, muscular dystrophy, multiple sclerosis, specific learning disability, speech and language disability, thalassemia, and multiple disability. Let me now describe the autism spectrum disorders. Autism is a group of developmental brain disorder collectively called autism spectrum disorder. The term spectrum refers to the wide range of symptoms, skills, and levels of impairment or disability that children with autism spectrum disorder can have. Some children are mildly impaired by their symptoms, but others are severely disabled. Autism spectrum disorder is diagnosed according to the guidelines listed in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders 2000. This manual currently defines 5 disorders, sometimes called pervasive developmental disorders, as autism spectrum disorder. They are known as autistic disorder, Asperger's disorder, pervasive developmental disorder not otherwise specified, Rett's disorder, and childhood disintegrative disorder. Symptoms of autism spectrum disorders vary from one child to another, but in general they fall into 3 areas. They are social impairment, communication difficulties, and repetitive or stereotyped behaviors. Next, let me talk about the blindness. The Persons with Disabilities Act 1995 refers blindness to a condition where a person suffers from any of these conditions, such as total absence of sight, visual acuity not exceeding 6/60 or 20/200 in the better eye with correcting senses, limitations of the field of vision subtending an angle of 20 degrees or worse. Let me now discuss about the cerebral palsy. Cerebral palsy describes a group of permanent disorders of the development of movement and posture causing activity limitation that are attributed to non-progressive disturbances which occurred in the developing fetal or infant brain. The motor disorder of cerebral palsy is often accompanied by disturbances of sensation, perception, cognition, communication, and behavior, by epilepsy, and by secondary musculoskeletal problems. Let me now mention about the chronic neurological conditions. The development of the human brain begins during pregnancy and continues through infancy, childhood, and adolescence. Most brain cells are formed before birth but the trillions of connections between these nerve cells are not developed until infancy. The brain is composed of gray matter and white matter. A motor neuron carries impulses away from the brain. The brain is self-organizing. It selects information to forward its growth and development. It also adapts to the environment. The experience of the environment through the senses of touch, smell, sight, taste, and hearing produces connections in the brain. All neurological disorders involve the brain, spinal column, or nerves. Symptoms depend on where damage occurs. Areas that control movement, communication, vision, hearing, or thinking can be affected. Neurological disorders are wide-ranging. They have various causes, complications, and outcomes. Many result in additional needs requiring lifelong management. Symptoms of neurological disorders vary. Physical, cognitive, emotional, and behavioral symptoms may be present with the specific disorders having combinations or clusters of these symptoms. Let me now talk about the deaf blindness. Deaf blindness is a combination of hearing and visual impairments causing such severe communication, developmental, and educational problems the child cannot be accommodated in either a program specifically for the deaf or a program specifically for the blind. In India, there are an estimated 450,000 deaf-blind people. Let me now mention about hemophilia. The word hemophilia is derived from two Greek words, haima meaning blood and philia meaning affection. Hemophilia is a hereditary condition. This means that it is passed on from mother to child at the time of conception. The blood of a person with the hemophilia does not clot normally. He or she does not bleed more profusely or more quickly than other people. However, he or she bleeds for a longer time. Many people believe that hemophiliacs bleed a lot from minor cuts. This is a myth. External wounds are usually not serious. Far more important is internal bleeding. These hemorrhages are in joints, especially knees, ankles, and elbows, and into tissues and muscles. When bleeding occurs in a vital organ, especially the brain, a hemophiliac's life is in danger. Let me now explain the hearing impairment. The Persons with Disabilities Act 1995 refers hearing impairment to a loss of 60 decibels or more in the better ear in the conversational range of frequencies. Let me now mention about the intellectual disability. International Statistical Classification of Diseases and Related Health Problems defines intellectual disability using 4 classifications ranging from mild intellectual disability to profound intellectual disability. A person has mild intellectual disability if his or her intelligence quotient, known as IQ range, is 50 to 69. Moderate intellectual disability is when a person has an IQ between 35 and 49. It becomes severe intellectual disability if the IQ is in the range of 20 to 34. The last category is a profound intellectual disability, and individuals with an IQ less than 20 falls in this category. Let me now mention about the leprosy cured. The Persons with Disabilities Act 1995 refers leprosy cured to any person who has been cured of leprosy but is suffering from any of these conditions. 1. Loss of sensation in hands or feet, as well as loss of sensation and paralysis in the eye and eyelid, but with no manifest deformity. 2. Manifest deformity and paralysis, but having sufficient mobility in their hands and feet to enable them to engage in normal economic activity. 3. Extreme physical deformity as well as advanced age, which prevent the individual from undertaking any gainful occupation, and the expression of leprosy cured shall be constructed accordingly. Let me now talk about the locomotor disability. Locomotor disability is a disability of the bones, joints, muscles, leading to substantial restriction of the movement of the limbs or any form of cerebral palsy. Low vision refers to a person with impairment of visual functioning even after treatment or standard refractive correction, but who uses or is potentially capable using vision for planning and executing a task with appropriate assistive device. Let me mention about the mental illness or disorder. Mental illness or disorder refers to behavioral or psychological syndrome or pattern which occurs in an individual and refers to an underlying psychobiological dysfunction, the consequences of which are clinically significant. Next, let me describe the muscular dystrophy. Muscular dystrophy is one of several inherited diseases characterized by progressive wasting of the skeletal muscles. There are more than 40 variations of muscular dystrophy. Of these variants or types known, the well-known types are the Duchenne muscular dystrophy, Becker muscular dystrophy, congenital muscular dystrophy, limb-girdle muscular dystrophy, and facioscapulohumeral dystrophy. They are classified according to the age at the onset of symptoms, the pattern of inheritance, and the part of the body primarily affected. All muscular dystrophies are caused due to mutations or faults in genes which cause progressive muscle weakness as muscle cells break down and are gradually lost. Let me mention about the multiple sclerosis. Multiple sclerosis is a common neurological disorder diagnosed in young adults. Its causes are not yet fully understood, and researchers continue to search for answers. It is not contagious and does not shorten the life expectancy of those who are diagnosed with it. Although the condition may not be cured or prevented, presently treatments are available to reduce severity and delay progression. It is a disorder of the central nervous system that consists of the brain, optic nerves, and spinal cord. This disorder damages the protective insulation surrounding the nerves and may also damage the nerves within the central nervous system. As a result, nerve impulses carrying messages from the brain and the spinal cord may develop short circuit, causing reduced or lost bodily function. Let me talk about the specific learning disability. Specific learning disability means a disorder in one or more of the basic psychological processes involved in understanding or in using language, spoken or written, which may manifest itself in an imperfect ability to listen, speak, read, spell, or to do mathematical calculations. The term includes such conditions as perceptual handicaps, brain injury, minimal brain dysfunction, dyslexia, and developmental aphasia. The term does not include children who have learning problems, which are primarily the result of visual, hearing, or motor handicaps, or mental retardation, emotional disturbance, or environmental, cultural, or economic disadvantages. A learning disability is a neurological condition that interferes with a person's ability to store, process, or produce information. They can affect one's ability to read, write, speak, spell, compute, mathematics, reason, and also affect a person's attention, memory, coordination, social skills, and emotional maturity. Some of the common learning disabilities include dyslexia, which is a language-based disability and in which a person has trouble with specific language skills, particularly reading. Dyscalculia is a mathematical disability in which a person has a difficult time solving arithmetic problems and grasping mathematical concepts. Dysgraphia is a writing disability in which a person finds it hard to form letters right within a defined space and express ideas. Let me mention about the speech and language disability. Speech and language disability is defined as a communication disorder characterized by stuttering, impaired articulation, a language impairment, or a voice impairment which adversely affects a child's learning. Let me now tell you about thalassemia. Thalassemia is a blood disorder passed down through families in which the body makes an abnormal form of hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is a protein in red blood cells that carries oxygen. The disorder results in large number of red blood cells being destroyed, which leads to anemia. Let me now describe the multiple disability. Multiple disabilities is a combination of two or more disabilities in a single person, which may include locomotor disability, leprosy cured, blindness, low vision, speech and hearing impairment, mental retardation, and mental illness. According to Census 2011, there are a total number of 2,68,10,557 people living with disabilities in India. Of this population, 1,49,86,202 are males and 1,18,24,355 are females, and this population includes persons with visual, hearing, speech, locomotor, and mental disabilities. This population constitutes 2.21% of the total population. A significant proportion of persons with disabilities live in rural areas. Let me now discuss the causes of disability. The causative factors of disability conditions are manifold and varied. They can be broadly classified into three factors: hereditary, congenital, and adventitious. The mind of a common man, a great confusion prevails regarding the nature of hereditary defects. Common man normally mixes up the term hereditary, congenital, and familial. However, the fact remains that the three terms are quite different from one another. A defect which is congenital or familial may not be hereditary at all. A hereditary defect is one that passes down from generation to generation because of some sort of disturbance in the working of inherent gene mechanism. A particular condition may be hereditary, and yet it may not manifest itself at birth or for many years to come, or might not have appeared before in the individual's immediate family. Hereditary defect passes on from one generation to the other through mutation of genes. In India, very little factual data are available with regard to disability caused due to defect through hereditary effects. Among the majority of the population in India, the practice of exogamy, which debars an individual from marrying consanguineously within his or her immediate circle of kith and kin, may be the governing factor in minimizing the incidences of hereditary defects. Congenital defects are those that are present at birth. Not all congenital defects are hereditary. Most of them are the result of inactions, nutritional deficiencies, chemical factors, and other environmental conditions. Some of the congenital deformities are caused due to factors such as the maternal malnourishment, maternal infection, Rh factor, diseases, radiation, and so on. The third classification of the causative factors is adventitious. This refers to the defects which may be acquired due to conditions such as birth injuries, pathological condition and disease, accidents, nutritional deficiencies, defective postures, consequences of war or disaster, and poverty. Let me sum up. The term disability is considered to be a part of human condition. Every individual at some point experiences some form of either temporary or permanent impairment in life situation. The nuclear family system in the present era is becoming a great challenge to individuals living with disability. The types of disabilities are autism spectrum disorder, blindness, cerebral palsy, chronic neurological conditions, deaf-blindness, hemophilia, hearing impairment, intellectual disability, leprosy cured, locomotor disability, low vision, mental illness, muscular dystrophy, multiple sclerosis, specific learning disability, speech and language disability, thalassemia, and multiple disabilities. The causative factors for disabilities are hereditary, congenital, and adventitious or acquired. Common man normally mixes up these terms, hereditary, congenital, and familial. However, the fact remains that these three terms are quite different from one another. Let me sign off now and hope to see you in another session. Thank you.